Gateway. Scientists have no special purchase on moral or ethical decisions. A climate scientist is no more qualified to comment on healthcare reform than a physicist is to judge the causes of bee colony collapse. The very features that create expertise in a specialized domain lead to ignorance in many others. In some cases, lay people, farmers, fishermen, patients, native peoples, may have relevant experiences that scientists can learn from. Indeed, in recent years, scientists have begun to recognize this. The Arctic Climate Impact Assessment includes observations gathered from local native groups, so our trust needs to be limited and focused. It needs to be very particular. Blind trust will get us into at least as much trouble as no trust at all. But without some degree of trust in our designated experts, the men and women who have devoted their lives to sorting out tough questions about the natural world we live in, we are paralyzed, in effect not knowing whether to make ready for the morning commute or not. Exercise 1. Remember that saying, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard? Regardless of talent level, if you work hard, you'll be a better musician. But working hard is not enough. My friend Charlie told me about his coworker, Tom, who worked extra hours each week, starting early and staying long after everyone else had left. A dedicated and industrious employee, you might think. Maybe not. Those extra hours Tom put in did nothing to increase his productivity, because he went from one project to the next, never setting priorities or deadlines. Without concentrating his efforts on the important tasks, he often never completed them. He was busy doing too many things, and in the wrong order. Charlie left the office each night thinking, there's Tom, working long and long instead of long and hard. Goals direct your hard work. Exercise 2. For people of any age, the world is becoming increasingly linear, a word I'm using in its figurative rather than mathematical sense. Non-linear thinkers, including many artists, are feeling more marginalized as a result. As a society, it seems we take less time for art. In doing so, we may be missing out on something that is deeply valuable and important from a neurobiological standpoint. Artists recontextualize reality and offer visions that were previously invisible. Creativity engages the brain's daydreaming mode directly and stimulates the free flow and association of ideas, forging links between concepts and neural nodes that might not otherwise be made. In this way, engagement in art as either a creator or consumer helps us by hitting the reset button in our brains. Time stops. We contemplate. We reimagine our relationship to the world. Being creative means allowing the non-linear to intrude on the linear and to exercise some control over the output. Exercise 3. Having expropriated resources from the natural world in order to fuel a rather temporary period of materialistic freedom, we must now restore no small measure of those resources and accept the limits and discipline inherent in that relationship. Until business does this, it will continue to be maladaptive and predatory. In order for free market capitalism to transform itself in the century to come, it must fully acknowledge that the brilliant monuments of its triumph cast the darkest of shadows. Whatever possibilities business once represented, whatever dreams and glories corporate success once offered, the time has come to acknowledge that business as we know it is over. Over because it failed in one critical and thoughtless way. It did not honor the various forms of life that secure and connect its own breath and skin and heart to the breath and skin and heart of our earth. Exercise 4. The philosopher as athlete of the mind. That is Nietzsche's great insight into the debates we see in Plato's dialogues between Socrates and all the pretenders to wisdom in Athens he questions, shames, and defeats in argument. Thus, to understand ancient Greek philosophy, it helps to look at the Olympics, and to understand the Olympics, it helps to look at ancient Greek philosophy. Wherever we turn in the Hellenic world, we see Greek pitted against Greek in the kind of competition epitomized by the Olympics. The Greek dream is to be the best, to be the first, to be the last man standing. The same competitive spirit that reveals itself on the racecourse and in the boxing arena comes out in Plato's dialogues. Socrates is literally the last man standing at the end of the all-night drinking contest in the symposium. Socrates, using his mental strength and agility to triumph over his opponents, is the distant descendant of the very physical heroes of Homer's Iliad. In Nietzsche's understanding, Plato's dialogues are the Olympics of philosophy. Exercise 5. Luxury ownership signals wealth, but, ironically, it is often the very wealthy who prefer to look cheap. Counter-signaling is when you go out of your way to show that you do not need to go out of your way. It has become almost a point of honor in Silicon Valley not to wear expensive clothes or suits, but rather jeans and trainers, which signals that you are more interested in tech than status. This style has been undoubtedly influenced by a social media company executive with his famous hoodie and casual wear. Francesca Gino, a professor at Harvard Business School, has shown that counter-signaling by wearing atypical clothing leads to higher regard in the right context. In one study, she asked the shop assistants working in high-end designer stores to rate two shoppers, one in gym clothes and the other in a dress and fur. The assistants were far more likely than the general public to think the gym clothes-wearing shopper would spend more and be in a position to buy the most expensive items in the boutique. They had learned from experience how the rich often counter-signal. Exercise 6. Relativity, as noted by the economist Robert H. Frank, is one of the fundamental principles in human economic behavior. In his book, Choosing the Right Pond, he makes the point that our economic decisions are guided by status, which is really a relativity issue. It explains why people would prefer to earn just $50,000 if their colleagues earned $25,000, rather than earn $100,000 if colleagues earned $250,000. We would prefer to have less so long as it is more than everyone else. We measure our success relative to others. One of the most surprising examples of this comes from an analysis of emotional reactions to winning Olympic medals. To even reach the Olympic Games should be considered an extraordinary achievement. And yet analysis has revealed that Olympians can sometimes experience disappointment even when they win a silver medal. The reason that the silver medalists are not happy is because they are comparing themselves to the winners. In contrast, the bronze medalists compare themselves to all the other competitors who did not get a medal, so they perceive themselves better off and happy. Relativity is how we judge our sense of achievement. It is better to be a big fish in a small pond than a big fish in a bigger pond. Exercise 7. Is it any wonder we love automation? By offering to reduce the amount of work we have to do, by promising to fill our lives with greater ease, comfort, and convenience, computers and other labor-saving technologies appeal to our eager but misguided desire for release from what we perceive as toil. In the workplace, automations focus on enhancing speed and efficiency, a focus determined by the profit motive rather than by any particular concern for people's well-being, often has the effect of removing complexity from jobs, diminishing the challenge they present, and hence the engagement they promote. Automation can narrow people's responsibilities to the point that their jobs consist largely of monitoring a computer screen or entering data into prescribed fields. Even highly trained analysts are seeing their work restricted by decision support systems that turn the making of judgments into a data processing routine. The apps and other programs we use in our private lives have similar effects. By taking over difficult or time-consuming tasks, the software makes it even less likely that we'll engage in efforts that test our skills and give us a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction. All too often, automation frees us from what makes us feel free. Exercise 8. In general, searching online for health information can be valid, eye-opening, educational, and even useful. While many doctors roll their eyes when they hear, "I did my research," from a patient, sometimes that research can be sound. If a patient has a rare disease and presents articles about it, many of us will be grateful that we were saved some extra work. But the web becomes entangled when sites angled with opinions, personal anecdotes, exaggeration, and false claims manipulate the navigator to believe what is posted. People also run into trouble when looking for information online based on preconceived notions. Here comes the curse of the original belief. If you believe that megadosing on vitamin C will prevent colds, you will seek out and easily find sites promoting this notion. If you think that juice cleanses are the way to better health and well-being, it's easy to find websites supporting this. If delaying vaccines is your cup of tea, online sources abound. If you're debating whether to eat only organic food, plenty of available information will support this.